The one thing I'll say about Spiritborn is it's hard not to enjoy it. I know it's not a paladin, but the Spiritborn's actually pretty dope. The new expansion campaign, in my opinion, did not live up to the history of Diablo having a good campaign. I think the Dark Citadel was literally the best content Diablo 4 has ever had. Now, whether or not that's enough for you to buy the expansion is up for you. D4 good now? Oh, I mean, it's significantly better. So the embargo is up. We can now show footage and discuss things. Did you have fun playing this expansion? I enjoyed the campaign, but there was some stuff that was confusing about it for me. That's about as most I'm going to say, because I don't want to spoil any of the campaign for you. You'll probably see what I mean. And I also had the most fun I've had in the game with the Dark Citadel. The Undercity was pretty cool. The Realms Walkers were a little underwhelming, and the Rune Words are mid. So for me, I had fun. There are some things that are not as exciting, and the progression was extremely slow compared to where we've been before. I'm sure they're going to retool that. They already said they were going to, so I'm not quite sure where it's going to end up upon launch. Scale of 1 to 10, whether you rank VOH. Depends upon what you're asking about, dude. I hate giving these generic ratings. If you're asking the Dark Citadel, I think it's like a 9. If you're asking the campaign, I think it's like a 5 maybe. Realms Walkers are mid. The Undercity is like a 7 or 8. That was pretty cool. You can average them all out if you want, but like I have different feelings about each individual piece of content. D4 good now? Oh, I mean, it's significantly better. I actually think if D4 released with all of this, like if all of this content was in the base game, I'm talking Rune Words, the Dark Citadel, you know, all of this shit was in the base game, including all the seasonal mechanics we had so far, it would have been a banging release. Like people would have been like, let's fucking go, it's great. But it's climbing back from a deficit. Like Diablo 4 actually has a pretty good base game. It's arguably more than the base game. There's a lot to do. But now, you know, you have to pay $40 expansion to get there. So that's going to, you know, argue with people's goodwill, and they're climbing back from the D4 bad meme. But like the game has a lot to do, and it's actually pretty fun. At this point, it's not just like hit the end game and you're done. Like there's shit to do. Like you can actually play the game for a while at this point. So I don't think, you know, oh, it's a shit game and all. Like I don't think that's fair anymore. It's legitimately decent. If this is how it was on the release with everything in it, I think people would have actually like given it a good reception. How long is the Vessel of Hatred campaign compared to the original? I believe most people are going to get through it in about 6 hours. My character was 9 hours by the time I completed all of the side things, unlocked the mercenary, unlocked the tutorials from like the Undercity, was AFK over an hour, as well as went really slow, watched all cinematics, and listened to all voice lines. So I think it's significantly earlier than the 9 hours, because I was literally playing RuneScape the whole time, as well as I was AFK for over an hour combined. So I think most people, it's going to be 5-6 hours. I think people that are spam skipping through it and blasting through and know what to do, like 3 hours. You thought campaign was too short? It felt too short for me on the initial impression. Other people felt like it was long, but I think like a 6-hour campaign, it felt a little short to me. I wish I had gone on maybe like one more act. I didn't feel like I was satisfied enough by the end of it. You'll see what I mean. I guarantee you it will be obvious that you'll know what I mean. And also Riker does a pretty good job of breaking down his feelings on the campaign without doing a spoiler as well. I'd recommend his video. Given how prolonged the original campaign was, I'm okay with it being short. I would be okay with it being short if... So what you're buying for the expansion is the new class, the Dark Citadel, the Undercity, the new regions, including the strongholds, and then the campaign. So that's pretty much it. So if the campaign, in my opinion, is not a very large part of the game, and if the Dark Citadel is locked to co-op only, and the Realms Walker is literally seasonal content already, in my opinion, the campaign needs to be a pretty big part of the game. Rune Words, true, Rune Words, but I think Rune Words are kind of boring. So in my opinion, the campaign's a pretty big portion of why you would spend the $40. I believe that the original campaign of Diablo 4 is actually quite good. Like, I think the OG campaign's quite good. You can replay it at some time just for the enjoyability if you want. I replayed it again in season 5. We did the whole playing through all the Diablos in a row. And I think the OG campaign lived up to the other campaigns throughout the other game. I think there's a lot of D4 bad memes, etc., but that's normally about the end game, the balance, the itemization, all that. It's not, no one really says the D4 are bad because the campaign's shit. Like, that's not really something you ever hear. I think the OG campaign was actually quite good, including cinematics, voice acting, as many boss fights, etc. The new expansion campaign, in my opinion, did not live up to the history of Diablo having a good campaign. In my opinion, having played through all of them recently, I actually think the latest expansion campaign is the worst campaign out of all of them, in my opinion. I think it's literally my least favorite. Now, I don't think it's horrible. I enjoyed my time playing through it, but I think it's not as good as any other campaign in any of the other games. That might be something that other people disagree with. They might absolutely love the campaign. I talked to 2 other people directly after being the campaign, which were named nameless, and I felt a very similar vibe from them as well. You're welcome to watch other people's reviews on it. I think there's multiple reviews of the campaign, but we're all not doing spoilers, so it's hard to give the reason why. After the 7th, when the game is actually out, you're welcome to come back to me, and I will give you in-depth reason as to why I actually did not like the campaign. That's why when I say if you're looking to purchase the game, in my personal opinion, the reason to purchase the game is the Dark Citadel. The campaign's the last thing I look for in a good Diablo game, but to each their own. Fair enough. My argument would be all of the campaigns in Diablo were quite good and enjoyable. I actually feel like the campaigns are a very good reason to play the game, even if it's not the majority of the reason to stay with the game. I think if you're a Diablo enjoyer and you play it for long periods of time, you're probably not someone who's only playing it or primarily focusing on the campaign. You're playing it for systems, the mechanics, the grind, the classes, the builds. But for me, even though all of that is typically what we think about ARPGs, the Diablo has, in my opinion, of all ARPGs, the best campaign and story, period. I like PoE, and I like the campaign because the bosses are good, but I like the PoE campaign from a mechanic and boss perspective. I think the Diablo campaigns, 1, 2, 3, 4, are better than the PoE campaigns from a playthrough story and enjoyable period. Like, I just do, okay? If you're a PoE person like myself too, you're like, no, you can't say anything bad about PoE, but I think Diablo has the best campaign out of all of the ARPGs. So when I play the expansion of the Diablo 4, I am looking for a good campaign because that is something that has consistently happened in all of the Diablo franchise, and in my opinion, is a reason I would purchase the game. It's not even close, especially D2. D1 was very good, and D1's my favorite of all of the Diablos. D2 had amazing music, amazing cinematics, great story, easy to understand and well written, great voice acting, goated game. Even the D3 campaign is quite good. We get Tyrael, we get the Giga Chad. I think D3 is a little underrated from the campaign. I think the D3 campaign is actually pretty good too. And then Diablo 4 campaign, I think, is up there. Like, I think maybe it goes, in my opinion, D1, D2, D4, D3 in terms of the campaign. So that's why when I have my rating on how I feel about the expansion, I am considering the campaign in my opinion, because I do think the Diablo campaign is quite important. Dark Citadel could be fun. How mechanically hard is the raid? It's a gear plus knowledge check. It's not what I would consider mechanically difficult. None of the timings are particularly short. The only timing is the impending doom, which is fairly large. So if you know all of the mechanics, then you can complete it. What is dangerous is having a knowledge gap. So if you're going in hardcore, completely blind, good luck. I believe you will lose your character. I would bet on that every time. But in Diablo, there's typically not things that are like massively difficult skill checks. You could argue there's things like Lilith or something you got to avoid and have knowledge. But again, I'd argue it's mostly knowledge. So I believe everyone will very easily be able to clear this in Torment 1 with almost any build as long as you know what you're doing. And it can be learned fairly quickly. I think the first time we did it, obviously blind because it was early access in Torment 1, I had a dog shit build. It took us as a group, I believe, an hour and 20-some minutes to both figure it out and play through it. That's insane, over an hour. By the time the third run was done, we did it in 45 minutes. Where are the rewards for it once it's completed? There are 2 types of rewards. There's rewards at the end of completion. Then there's rewards that you get periodically for completing the treasure wardens and going to the next portion of each individual wing. You do the treasure wardens, it upgrades a reward tier. You get to the next section, you're going to get a drop that have legendary items, greater affix items, unique things like that in it. And then at the end, you're going to get another dump of rewards. And once you complete all 3 of them, you're going to get the Dark Citadel cache, which has, again, legendary items, uniques, greater affixes, and the Scroll of Tempering, which is more important because it resets, or restoration is what they call it. It resets your ability to temper an item again, so that you basically unbrick it. Keep in mind that that restoration scroll is given to you within the season journey. You are not required to do this in order to unlock that scroll. I do not know how rare the drop rate of these scrolls are outside of the Dark Citadel, and it is a weekly cache that you receive. So you cannot farm this multiple times over and over and over and over and over again in the same day. It is a weekly gated cache. That being said, there are still coins you can farm, and those coins can be used to purchase things like cosmetics, gear cache rewards, and these potions like instances and elixirs that are better than the previous instances and elixirs, but they are like experience, for instance. There you go. Citadel conquered. You get the cache, you get some rewards. Scroll of Restoration, which is the one I was talking about earlier, and the coin cache, which the coins are used in the store. And then there's the cache. You can see some greater affixes. You can see another scroll, coin caches, some uniques. Not too crazy, but like decent rewards. I wonder if there will be Uber Dark Citadel full shenanigans at some point. They could expand upon the Dark Citadel. It wouldn't be too hard to expand upon it. You could add additional wings or Uber version of the bosses, I guess. I would assume the way they're going to do it, like pushing content, like power creeping the ceiling of content in the future, is just adding more torment difficulties. I think they've basically set themselves up at a point where if they power creep the game, all they have to do is move back the torment level. So they're probably going to do that. I'm not saying that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm just saying that's probably what realistically how they have it set up now. So for me, I actually thought the Dark Citadel was easily my favorite part of the game so far. When I played this, everyone I played it with was surprised. We kind of thought it was going to be the type of thing where I played it 3 times. We actually thought it was going to be the sort of thing where it's like, okay, maybe it's just tank and spank, kill a few bosses. Like Gauntlet. You know how Gauntlet was a little underwhelming? The Dark Citadel wasn't underwhelming because they phase out the damage in the bosses. So when you get to a boss, you can only do like 1/3 of its life. So even if you're one-shotting the boss, you can only get to 1/3, and then you actually have to do a mechanic. So they gate you behind knowledge and gear. Do you feel you'll finally have some good fun in D4 again? Playing the Citadel and figuring out the mechanics was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had, if not easily the most fun experience. Like, I think it probably was the most fun experience. I mean, it feels like it easily was to me. That and the Lilith fight. Like, I like challenges that you're trying to figure out. Everyone has the raid solved before release, though. I mean, I think there's only, like, less than 40 people that have access to it. There will be guides out, so people can figure it out if you want. People are still going to die to it. Did you only play in a party of 2? You try it with 4? I tried it with 2, 3, and 4. Every mechanic in the game requires 2 people. You cannot solo it. You can play it with 2 people. There are some portions in which it's more difficult. The fact that this stuff's already solved is such a bummer. Like, let the community learn. Then I would not watch the guides. If you want to go into a blind, go into a blind. How many hours does it take to complete the Citadel? You can do all 3 wings in an hour total. The rewards are not unique to the raid. You are correct. So there are tempering scrolls, but you can get them outside of it. In fact, there's one in the season journey. The only thing that's unique to the raid is the cosmetics, which you can only get from tier 4. There are other cosmetics that drop in the lower tiers, but it's not the Giga Chad cosmetics, the green ones, which is from tier 4. You can also save up your coins and purchase the rewards as well. This is going to be for sure how a lot of people lose their hardcores in the Dark Citadel. But my plan is to go through, figure out a build in softcore, then try to do this in hardcore. Maybe convince one of the other people to play with me. I know Pox was interested. Maybe I could get Riker to play, and then try to push through the Citadel as hardcore duo. I think would be quite interesting. Yeah, playing with Riker and Lucky was very enjoyable too. Like, I think if you have somebody you enjoy playing these games with, like, this is really good co-op content. It is actually very enjoyable as a duo. Like, for me, I think the Dark Citadel is literally, like, the best content Diablo IV has ever had, in my opinion. I think it is. Now, whether or not that's enough for you to buy the expansion is up for you. That's why I'm showing you the Dark Citadel, so you can see what it is and decide if you want to buy it or not. For me, I'm going to play this with a buddy, and I'm going to have a good time with it, because the Dark Citadel is actually quite fun, and then trying to push the hardcore to beat it on tier 4 is going to be very difficult. Like, pushing the higher torments is not just a meme anymore. You don't just one-shot through everything unless you're playing like Spiritborn and Pestilence build, I guess. So best content ever in D4 is forced, mandatory, and a big, huge f*** you to people that don't like multiplayer. This game turned into MMO with each successive update. I mean, I don't know if it's a giant f*** you, okay? The game's content is targeted around more MMO playstyle than it is previously. If you feel like it's a f*** you because Diablo is supposed to only be for single-player players, then fair enough. However, this content's specifically for co-op people. So you can either say it's a f*** you to everybody, or you can say it's the added content for people that actually have co-op. I would argue there are mechanics like the ones where you have to have another player that literally cannot be added into the game unless you do it with other people. Like, these mechanics require co-op because you cannot physically do the mechanics without another person. So they can't develop what the Dark Citadel is without another person, because there's 2 realms you have to go at the same time, etc. So I don't know how they would make this content for a solo person. It would be something totally different, which they added the Undercity and Realms Walkers, which is 2 new pieces of content. So for me, this is the best, but I also like playing with people. Maybe you like the Undercity better. So don't add the mechanic or make them optional. It is optional. Literally the only reward is cosmetic. You could argue that you want the expansion without this, just so you don't feel bad as a solo player, but then you're literally asking for a worse expansion. I feel like when I hear that argument, it's you want to play this content because you think it looks fun, but you don't want to play it with another person, which is fair feedback. But it looks fun because the mechanics are cool, but the mechanics are designed around 2 people. Like Portal 2 is a cool game, but if you don't have another person, not as cool. I disagree that it limits content. Just don't make content that requires a party. But you just said it. So it's like, it doesn't limit content. Just don't make the content that requires... You're cutting that portion, the content that does require the other party. That you said the thing you said it doesn't do, which is... It doesn't stop us from making certain types of content. Don't do this type of content. That's the thing. Let's say they did make a solo version that's different, because it would have to be different. Are then we going to move the goalpost to, you can't make this multiplayer content now because it has more mechanics in the solo version? Why doesn't the solo version have that many mechanics? Well, it can't. You literally can't. Because the only mechanics in here that are things you couldn't do solo are the duo mechanics. Now, there could be an argument that we can make, which is that don't put dev time into creating content that doesn't work for solos. Now, that is an argument you're welcome to make, in which, in that point, absolutely I understand. Like, if you're saying, I don't want dev time to go to making content that's more than 1 people. Fair enough argument, you're welcome to your opinion. And I'm not saying that I don't want solos to have content, but I'm saying that obviously they're moving forward with the Diablo franchise, in which they want content that is deeper, that does require more people to do. So we could disagree with the direction they're taking it. You could like the direction they're taking it because it's adding more depth. You could disagree and say that I would rather have dev time go elsewhere, and all of those are opinions you are welcome to. But I don't hate that we have a game that was designed as an open world, more MMO, advertised more as an MMO, and then now is being delivered upon content that's more MMO. I don't hate that because that's what they advertised Diablo IV as, and what I was personally excited for. You might like something different, fair enough. If you do not like the fact that it's 2-player, I would suggest not buying the expansion because you will not be able to do what is, in my opinion, the best portion of the expansion. I very firmly believe the Dark Citadel is the reason to buy the expansion. I probably would not buy the expansion for the campaign only. I think Realms Walkers, being that's in the base game as well, are pretty boring, but if you like the Realms Walker, you don't even have to buy the expansion for that. The only other portion is Runewords, the Renown from New Hantu, and the Undercity. I don't think any of those are worth the price tag. So in my opinion, if you are solo only, you refuse to do multiplayer, which is a choice you're making, by the way, because there's a party finder in the game. You're specifically saying, I am choosing not to interact with this content. That is a choice you are making. Okay, so if that's what you're doing, do not buy the expansion because that is the focus of this expansion. I said so in my review, and it's the same thing I think. Like, this is the reason you buy the expansion. If you don't like the Dark Citadel, you want to play solo, don't buy it. With Dark Citadel, the Riftwalker World event, and a conversation you have with Blizzard, you get the feeling they're moving to a Lost Ark sort of the game. I don't get that feeling. I think they just wanted to make something with more mechanics that is like raids with multiplayer, because they basically made an MMO and they made it single player and instance. You have to realize, they advertised this game as an MMO. They are making it with an open world. They were trying to go that direction, and then the game launched, and what happened? Every single person did Champion's Demise for 30 hours plus to hit level 100. So you have this huge open world and this multiplayer, and you're seeing people walk around for the first time ever in a Diablo game. And then what happened? Everyone went to a fucking instance. And then the Gauntlet came out, and that's instance. And then people were doing the pit, and that's it. The whole game is a single player instance. And they're probably like, well, we have this whole game where we made an MMO, and we're focusing on open world where you see other people with world bosses, and none of it matters. So they're like, let's add something in the game that's in line with the original vision of Diablo. So they did. And that's how we get the Dark Citadel. So I don't think they're trying to move the game to Lost Ark. I don't think they're trying to make it World of Warcraft. I think they just wanted to have some content that was maybe like the original design. I think they went the wrong direction with D4 overall. They should have focused on the open world part of it. I actually kind of like that take. I liked the open world aspect of it as well. I'm not really a big fan of rerunning instances, and this is kind of across all ARPGs, but that's sort of what the ARPG genre seems to have been, which is rerunning instances and grinding them. So I understand why it's gone that way. It's probably easier to develop content that way as well. But, you know, the open world leans more into the MMO, which is contentious. So, you know, it depends upon where you sit on that, on that enjoyment. You know, one thing I've learned about D4 is it is One of the most controversial games and what people like and what people want from the game. If you ask a big group of like 5,000 people, you're going to get a variety of opinions on where it should go with its direction, what kind of content should be added, and what current state it's in. I haven't really seen that level of divide in opinions almost ever in any game. I think a lot of that is because the variety of people that play Diablo 4 is fairly wide. You have a lot of new people that came in because of both the advertising, but also because it's now cross-platform and accessible to people, and it's on Game Pass now, and it's on Steam, so it's across everywhere. It's just in your face everywhere, so Diablo is something that I think a lot more people are trying. Then you also have the people that play D3, which is very different from D2, and then you have the D2 people that play. So there's a variety of audience in the Diablo franchise, and you can really argue that Diablo has been a franchise that has changed in almost every iteration of the game. Favorite ammo for Spiritborn? Centipede. The one thing I'll say about Spiritborn is it's hard not to enjoy it. Like, it's very easy to have a good time with Spiritborn. Almost all of the moves are fun. I think you guys are really going to like the Spiritborn, honestly. I know it's not a paladin, but the Spiritborn's actually pretty dope. I keep hearing Spiritborn's not a second druid. It's definitely not a second druid. Like, it's only thematically close to druid, but in gameplay wise, it does not feel like I'm playing a druid at all. It feels closer to melee rogue. Per Rob, Spiritborn's 10x stronger than the rest. Maybe at Ultra in-game. I think like pretty much everyone's going to be playing Spiritborn, to be honest with you. Damage squish is real. Oh, but there's definitely people that are hitting for like millions. I played with Lucky. Lucky was hitting for like, multiple millions. He was one-shotting stuff. This is only Torment 1. This build at this stage, I'd only add like, I think this is like a 15-hour-old character. I know there's people that got all the way to Torment 4 and were like one-shotting everything, so I've heard that the poison build can be quite busted. It's Paladin Hammer, but no. Yeah, the poison thing's kind of like Paladin Hammer, yeah. At this point, I was playing the poison build. I tried a few different things. I tried messing around with the basic attacks. I tried messing around with the poisons. What build do you think is easy? I just want to do the new campaign. You can literally beat the campaign with any move, any build. You don't need to worry about, like, what's an easy build for it? Just drag and drop literally anything. You'll be able to beat the campaign. I want to start Druid and Spiritborn second. I really don't care if I'm not keeping up with Rob's 5 billion gajillion damage. Yeah, I mean, just play whatever you want. Like, the easiest way for you to hate this game is to figure out whatever the strongest build is, follow a guide, not understand the guide, literally just copy paste everything, go straight to the end of the game as fast as you possibly can, do the content. Just play the game. Literally play what you think sounds the most fun. Don't min-max yourself out of enjoyment. Now, if what you want to do is be as strong as possible, and that's how you get fun, then yeah, go for it. Remember when the minions by themselves were stronger than Barbarian? Remember when Barbarian could one-shot the entire game? That's fun. How does the re-tempering recipe work? It drops a score of restoration, you use it on it, and it resets your temper uses. Pretty much that easy, my friend. Does it take off the current temperance? No, it just resets your temper amount. Are you going to play hardcore? I will be after I beat it on softcore. My plan is to get to Torment 4, figure out what build I want to play, try to beat the Dark Citadel in Torment 4, okay? It's going to take me a while to do it, because I'm going to figure it out myself as I always do, all right? Once we get there and figure out the build and we know what we want to do, then we're going to run it in hardcore. I'm going to try to find a partner because I don't want to pug it. I'm going to try to find someone that wants to play with me, and we're going to go to Torment 4 and beat the Dark Citadel in Torment 4 in hardcore. That's my plan. This is going to be a season, if you're a viewer, you want to have the clip button ready, because there's going to be a ton of times that people lose their hardcore because someone else fucks up a mechanic. This is going to be the season of raging in party chat. Like, imagine this, okay? It's Party Finder, so you're playing with randoms. It's hardcore, so if you die, you lose your character. And then in the Dark Citadel, if anyone fucks it up, you all die. I feel like I've been scammed by D4. I don't know what to tell you about that, dude. You bought a video game, you got a video game. You know what I feel like I got scammed by? No Man's Sky when it came out, but then it eventually became good. And now I don't feel scammed. Can this impression be changed with the new DLC? If you feel like you got scammed by the base, but now you think if I spend more money to make the game good for me, then I would suggest not to do it. You already feel like you got scammed. Why would you spend more money to make your scam not a scam? I think that'd be a bad way of going at it. However, if you haven't played the game since like season 1, then that's on you because the game is different now. And the base game, in my opinion, is now worth it. Starfield definitely felt like a scam. I'll be honest, I feel like people throw the word around for scam for games too much. Really what you're saying is you don't think the game was good. A scam would be you spent the money and you literally didn't get the product, or they shut the servers down or something. Like the day before. That's a scam. No Man's Sky, when they said it's multiplayer and it's literally not, and then when people figured out it's not multiplayer, they said, well, it's just too big of a world. That's a scam. But like the game comes out and you're like, it's not as good as I wanted it to be. That's not a scam. It's just a bad game. Like I think Starfield was dog shit. Was it worth my money? No. The $300 I spent on the watch thing, I only like the watch. I think the watch, it made a better watch than it did the game. Do I feel scammed? No. I bought a bad product. Do I wish it was better? Yep. Like, a scam for me is malicious intent. Like, do you think when they made Starfield, they're like, let's make a dog shit game and scam people? Probably not. Was the game bad? Yeah. And arguably, like, Starfield still had stuff you could play in it. I mean, there was content you could play. I just don't think it was that good. I gave it like a 6 out of 10 at best. Because the problem is, if we think bad games are all scams, then like, bro, like a third of the games out there are scams. And like, that just seems like if we really go out there and say 30% of all games made are scams, it's like, I don't know about that, bro. That's like saying a movie you saw is a scam. Joker 2 is a scam. No, it's just a dog shit movie that you wasted money watching. Borderlands movie is a scam. No, it's just a dog shit, poorly written movie. It's a bad product. It's not a scam. It's a bad product. I think it's really as simple as, is it fun? And I think that the expansion is fairly fun. Is it fun enough to worth $40? For me. But like, bro, I spend thousands of dollars of money on games a year because I buy all of the games because I really like games. I mean, I bought games like Space Marine and I played it for like a dozen hours and then I stopped playing it. Was it worth it because I only played it for like 12 hours? For me, yeah. If you think you only get 10 hours out of a $60 game, probably ain't worth it to you. Like Throne and Liberty, I spent $100 on the early access because I like Throne and Liberty, or I wanted to play a new MMO. I like MMOs. Is it worth it? No, I don't think it's worth it, but I like it. So like, I hate trying to be like, should you, is it worth $40 is a harder argument to me than is it fun? So if the question is it worth $40? To me, it is always going to be worth $40 much more, I believe, than the average person, because I am much more willing to spend $40, $50 on a game that I play for 10 hours because I play a lot of games and I like trying new games. Is it objectively worth $40? I say no for the campaign, and I say yes for the Dark Citadel. If you do not like the Dark Citadel, or you do not want to play co-op content, I do not believe it is worth it. But that's only because I believe the campaign was disappointing. If the campaign was very good, I would probably argue it was worth the spend just to play the campaign and continue the story if you're a mega Diablo fan. However, because the campaign, in my opinion, was underwhelming, that puts the valuation of how much it is worth it a lot more on the mechanic side of the game, which in my opinion is primarily the Dark Citadel. Okay, that's it. All right, cheers. We out, boys. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.